Checks and balances explained. What stops one branch? U.S. Citizenship Test, Part 1.
Welcome back to Pathway to Citizenship, the show where we explore the stories behind the U.S. Citizenship Test and turn those tricky civics questions into conversations you'll never forget. I'm Anne, your host, and joining me again is Mark, future citizen and perpetual question machine.
That's me. I've got plenty of questions tonight, especially about this one. What stops one branch of government from becoming too powerful? I memorized the answer, checks and balances. But Anne, what does that even mean? It sounds like accounting.
You're not alone, Mark. Almost every student says that. Checks and balances does sound like something you'd hear at a bank, doesn't it?
Yeah, like, excuse me, ma'am, I'd like to balance my checks and maybe get a savings account.
Exactly. But in the Constitution, checks and balances has nothing to do with money. It's about keeping power in check, making sure no one person or branch of government becomes a king.
So it's like political babysitting?
That's actually a great way to put it. The Founding Fathers had just escaped a system where one king had all the power. They didn't want a repeat of that in America. So they divided the government into 3 branches: legislative, executive, and judicial.
Congress, the president, and the courts.
Exactly. And then they built a system where each branch can limit or check the others. That balance keeps democracy alive.
Okay, but can you give me a real example? Because I still can't quite picture it.
Sure. Let's play a quick scenario. Imagine you're the president and you just passed a new law saying everyone has to wear green on Mondays.
Nice. That would make the country look like a forest.
True, but Congress might think that's a silly or unfair law. They could refuse to pass it. That's Congress checking your power.
Okay. So Congress says no, but what if I'm a stubborn president and sign an executive order to make it happen anyway?
Then the judicial branch, meaning the courts, can step in and say, "Sorry, Mr. President, that order is unconstitutional." That's the judicial check.
So, everyone's watching everyone else.
Exactly. It's like a 3-way security system. Each branch has a camera on the others.
Wow. So no one gets to play dictator.
Exactly. It's protection from power overload. Think of it like a seesaw. If one side goes too high, the others push back to level things out.
I love that image. But you know, that also sounds exhausting. Doesn't it make the government move super slowly?
It does sometimes, but that's intentional. The founders believed slow, deliberate decisions were better than fast mistakes. They wanted debate, disagreement, even a little tension to protect freedom.
So, democracy is kind of like a slow cooker. It takes time, but the results are worth it.
Perfect metaphor, Mark. And that's why the answer, checks and balances, matters. It's not just a phrase to memorize. It's the reason America has lasted over 200 years without turning into a monarchy.
I think I get it now. It's not about stopping government. It's about steering it.
Exactly. You just summed up the heart of the U.S. Constitution.
All right, Anne. I'm hooked. But how do we see checks and balances working in real life? I mean, I get the theory, but does it actually happen?
Great question. It happens all the time, though sometimes it looks messy. Let's look at some famous examples. Take the story of President Harry Truman in 1952. During the Korean War, he tried to take control of steel factories to prevent a strike, but the Supreme Court said, "Nope, you can't do that." That case, Youngstown Sheet and Tube Company versus Sawyer, proved that even a president at war isn't above the Constitution.
Whoa. So the court basically told the president to chill out.
Exactly. That's judicial power checking executive power. Now, let's flip it. Congress once tried to pass laws limiting what the president could do with troops, but presidents sometimes veto those laws. That's executive power checking legislative power.
Right. Because only the president can veto a bill.
You got it. But even that veto isn't the final word. Congress can override the veto with a 2/3 vote.
The revenge of the legislature. It's like a political ping-pong match.
That's exactly what it is, a constant back and forth, and the ball is the balance of power.
So, all this arguing isn't chaos, it's design.
Yes, the founders wanted argument. They believed disagreement was healthier than blind obedience. Think of it like the brakes and gas pedal on a car. If you only had gas, you'd crash. If you only had brakes, you'd never move. Checks and balances make sure that the car of democracy stays on the road.
I love that. But what about the people? Where do we fit in this system?
Oh, we're the mechanics. We choose who drives the car by voting, and if a driver goes off course, we replace them at the next election.
So the people are like the ultimate check on all three branches.
Exactly. The Constitution begins with "we the people" for a reason. It reminds every branch who's really in charge.
That makes me think, if checks and balances are so important, do other countries have them?
Some do, but few work quite like ours. The U.S. system inspired others, but it's uniquely strong because of its separation of powers. Some countries have a single parliament that can pass any law, but here, laws have to pass through multiple gates.
Like security checkpoints for power.
That's right. Think of the branches as three friends sharing a pizza. One can't eat the whole thing, or the others will protest. Each has a slice, and everyone watches to make sure no one takes too much cheese.
So the Constitution is the world's most polite pizza party.
That's one way to see it. The beauty of it is that even when there's tension, when Congress fights with the president or the courts block a law, it's not a crisis. It's democracy doing its job.
That's reassuring. I used to think government arguments meant something was wrong.
Not at all. Arguments mean people care. The real danger is when no one argues anymore. That's when power goes unchecked.
Wow. So, in a weird way, America's constant fighting is what keeps it free.
You got it, Mark. Freedom isn't quiet. It's a chorus of voices balancing each other out.
And that's what checks and balances really means. Everyone's keeping everyone honest.
Exactly. And that's why that question on the citizenship test isn't just memorization. It's a key to understanding how America protects itself from power, corruption, and tyranny.
I feel like this should be a movie, The Balancers, a constitutional thriller.
You'd be the star. But you're right, the story of checks and balances is a thriller. It's the story of how freedom survives.
Well, then I guess I'll remember it forever. What stops one branch from becoming too powerful? Checks and balances. The superhero team of American government.
Perfect summary, Mark. And that's the start of understanding not just how the U.S. works, but why it works.